Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. Thanks for stopping by. I'm out to make another marble today, and we're going to start out making a cane with 3 colors, and that's going to be the primary guts of this marble. So fire up the torch and see if we can make this happen. So I'm starting out with some 12mm rod. I'm going to get this end cut loose here. We don't need a end sticking out like that. I did a bunch of work already pulling out stringers and stuff, but I haven't fired up the Red Max here, so give this a go. Clear that out a bit. So off of this clear rod, I'm going to do some gold fume, lay down the color, add some more clear, see if we can make some interesting cane here. So we got a pretty good section, might as well make a fair amount of this material. Alright, let's see what we can get going on here. Trying to warm up my gold fuming rod a bit. Okay, we got a generous amount of gold fume on there. And then we want kind of a softer flame here. We're going to start out with some cherry red. And I want to lay these colors down kind of fat. And then I've got some purple lilac. Kind of liking this purple lilac. I'm trying it in slightly different applications to see how it goes. And the other one I've been kind of liking lately is this IO star. I'll use some of this. Like I said, kind of throwing some of this down pretty thick. All right. Try and kind of tag down these loose ends. Now the goal here is going to be encapsulating these colors with clear. So we'll melt them in a bit first and see if we can chase out some of that gold fume. That's going to be a little tough to do because that went down pretty thick. Okay, let's see if we can get aggressive here and chase away some of this gold. Well, I cleared out some of it. All right, now we're going to take some 5mm rod and we're going to try and fill in, hopefully I can fill in these cracks without getting a bunch of air entrapped. Try and go at it just kind of slow and steady. We're trying to hit both sides of these color lines. visually a little deceptive because I still have some gold fume that I'm trapping. It's along those edges. Okay, now I want these lines to be really completely encased with clear. So I'm going to just kind of keep working my way around. It's kind of visually a little confusing looking at all this shiny reflections and it's usually once you hit the torch on there, you can see the different glass. The different glass is the glass that's not covered up with clear. Getting there. I think I got just about all of it covered up. And I'll just kind of build up some clear on this end. Kind of punty up to it. Maybe kind of a short handle, but I think we can work with that. And then we'll burn off this other end. And again, we'll kind of build out this, cover everything up with clear. And get a handle on here. Alright, time to melt it in. Yeah, I got off to a little bit of a false start. The software, OBS software that I use on the computer to record these videos, I usually just fire it up and it's got the settings the way I had it in my last session. And I've got little tweaks that I do to it every time it starts up. But today, when I started up the program, it wanted me to log into YouTube like I was going to live stream. It didn't have any of my setup that I was used to having. It's a little bit feisty hot. So that was a little disconcerting. So not too, well, a year ago, whatever, I changed computers out here. And I went through a whole process of saving my setup so that I could get fired up again with the same settings, basically. So fortunately, I found the flash drive that had those settings. And they're a little out of date, but close enough. Haven't changed too much in the last year. Okay, times this gets a little crazy. So trying to get this to pull together before I twist it out. I want it to be in a better shape. I think I'm going to get a longer handle on here. When you're trying to heat the ends, it's sometimes easier just not even have a handle on there. You get a lot more heat there. Let it kind of condense in. I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to cut off this end for a minute. You can get a lot more heat on the end without the punty there. So this cane is kind of an open core cane, almost the opposite of a ribbon cane where you have color elements in sort of a plane and clear built up around either side of that, and then that's pulled and twisted out. This has got the color kind of on the outside, but I didn't want it to be literally the outside. I wanted it to be cased in, covered in with clear. So it's coming together pretty well. heat this middle section till it gets nice and condensed into its kind of cylinder shape. So this whole progression, trying to get it to cylinder basically, I'm kind of pushing this together a little bit. So we're going to start off trying to barrel this up. And we'll do our initial kind of a soft twist. We'll slowly work this into a gentle twist, and I've got more than one direction going on here, so I've got to get this in to get with the program here. Got a lot of funny wiggles going on here, trying to get this all going the same twist. So this kind of pre-shaping, it's kind of key in my mind to get things going the way you want it before you just start twisting it out. Okay, let's see if we can pull this out. I'm going to get torch hypnosis doing this. Try and maintain kind of a consistent feel to it as it's pulling out. If it seems like you're losing tension, you want to kind of step out of the flame and let it set up for a second. And if you're trying to, it seems like you're forcing it too much, you need to be slowing down and keeping it in the fire. And the farther out it gets, and sometimes I get to where I switch gears and start rotating with my right hand. I'm doing the slow rotations with my left hand. I'm kind of getting to the limits of keeping this under control. So this end is a little crazy. Okay, I'll cut this loose. All right, that is our crazy cane for the day. I'll just clean up some of these small rods for the next time we need it. Well, that was a big step forward in this marble. We haven't even started the marble yet, though. We gotta get this program rocking. I did write down a whole bunch of notes, so next thing I need to do, and good thing I'm looking at my notes. Before I get going with that, I'm going to silver fume a stinger here. So, I've got some honey badger. It's kind of a soft brown, transparent color. Make sure it's good and warm. Throw some silver at it. Okay, now I can start getting the guts of the marble going. Our base rod will be the core of the marble and the front lens. Well, how's everybody doing out there? I hope we're all doing good. We've got a beautiful day here. I had some moment this morning reflecting back on where I started with glass work. And I was a little surprised. It's like, where did this feeling pop up? And then I got to thinking it's May. And it's getting close to the anniversary of the first day I was melting glass on a torch. It was May 18th, 1993. So I associate that date with starting glasswork. It's also the anniversary of Mount St. Helens going off, which was a memorable day for me. Working in Redmond, Washington at Rocket Research. People were a little freaked out by all this ash, but we didn't get hardly anything. Tiny, tiny trace of ash came into our area where I was working at the time. And it's also my sister's birthday. We've got a family gathering coming up soon. Got 2 sisters and a brother, and we're all going to get together and celebrate a couple birthdays. It's not often that the 4 of us can all get to the same place at the same time, so looking forward to that. But also just had a little bit of contemplation of the long winding road it's been with glass to get to this point. And I'm just very deeply grateful for anyone out there watching these videos and supporting the channel, shopping on our Etsy stores or the marbles on eBay. Okay, I get a bit of a ball going here on the end. I'm going to try and do this plunge. So we just push our stinger in there and kind of gently pull it out. Just to give us something visually interesting in the core. Keep kind of building up our gather. And we're going to come off the heat and let this portion kind of settle in. So now we're going to start shaping up the cone. We're going to go through a bit of process and get that core piece to twist up a little bit. So we'll start off kind of focusing our heat on the very end where there's that dimple. And try and kind of heal that up. And we can kind of angle it, so we just let it kind of fall back, start getting our taper. So at this point, I'm trying to kind of force some twist into this. And I'm kind of making a long, skinny cone. All right, settle that down. Now is a good time to try and pluck this end so that it comes out. Well, just kind of clean off this very end so that the color comes out the tail end. Just a little adjustment there. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, this cane that we made, like I say, this is kind of the main guts of this whole operation. So make sure we break away from the previous winding and keep a little space so that they can melt in without getting any air in there. Down to this end and pull it off. Now we're going to kind of change our angle and melt this layer in. Take this moment to thank our sponsor, Epicwater Filters. There's a link in the description below. You follow that link to their website and order a water filter for your house or a pitcher or under the sink element or whatever, or a drinking bottle. Hey, come back here. Use that link, we get a small commission. You can help out the channel and have some great clean water to drink. Okay, well, we're going to do that again. That was so much fun, we're going to add another layer. All right. You ready for more? Come back here to the beginning. And this time try and go down the in-between. Just kind of doing the same thing, just offset. And melt this in again. Yeah, just feeling a lot of gratitude these days to be able to continue doing this kind of work for so many years. This has been really my only source of income since moving to Montana and starting glass work, and like I say, in 93. Built my home, raised my daughter. Now Rae and I are enjoying continuing to do our artistic silliness and share it with whoever wants to check it out. And we've gone through some ups and downs for sure through the years. But we feel very fortunate to be living where we are and having a home and workshop space and wonderful customers and viewers like you guys on YouTube. It all makes this work. Without you guys, this just wouldn't be the same. So we appreciate your comments and suggestions and questions. Okay, every time you get a big heat like that going, the glass wants to ball up. So if you're trying to go for a particular shape, you need to kind of get back on it to shapen up. And at this point, we can do a little pull off the end. And it helps focus that vortex on the marble. All right. According to my directions, next thing I'm going to do is some blue-green frit. I like this stuff in the background. Hopefully it'll show up. So having those two layers of open cane gives kind of a lacy, open pattern. Can is right in the way. Okay, just some sprinkles. And just kind of let some heat melt those chunks of frit, and they'll just kind of collapse in on themselves and make little pebbles. Give it a little texture, some visual texture and some physical texture. Okay, and we'll just kind of smooth things out. All right, let that relax for a moment. When things are on this roller stand, I keep kind of rotating, make sure it's not drooping down. Getting a little weird, it seems like. Okay, we're done with this. Now I've got some black, some jet black. Oh, why are you doing that? Get my shaky hand going there and drop. Once we make contact, then it's a lot more stable. Can't tell my hand's shaking now. Okay, do that whole stretch on an open wind. And kind of smooth that layer down. We'll go ahead and pull this out some more. And just fill in between the lines. Kind of the same process I did putting down the color cane inside. Okay, now I can squish it in. Hopefully the idea is that gives a complete coverage. I may need to do a little filling in a few little cracks. All right. Well, that's that. That's all that phase. Now we're going to have to fill in this cone shape to the whole back hemisphere. And before we do that, just do silver. little touch of silver, it adds some interest on the back. Yeah, well, life is good here. I hope those of you watching these videos taking time to chill and take care of yourself. Interrupt the loop in your brain that's giving you a feeling of being stuck. We all get into this pattern of thoughts that just keep going round and round and round. You can't seem to get your head to be quiet. There's some actual techniques out there on how to break that cycle, but a lot of times it's just diverting your attention. If you can step outside, just a change of scene can literally make the difference. And if you can't physically really move your body, just look around for anything in your field of vision and sort of focus on one thing after another. Do some breathing exercise if you know how to do some of that. Or just do some deep breathing while you're literally just shifting the focus. And you'll kind of break loose of that cycle. And then you're kind of free to start off thinking about something else. So we're in pretty intense times these days, and it's going to go on for a long time. It's just welcome to life on planet Earth. So learning how to maneuver, navigate in the modern world, and so many things are changing, and so many issues are getting overhyped. It's important for all of us to just be able to remember that we're just human beings, and we help each other out when we can. It's amazing how people will come out and help one another when you think they probably wouldn't. But more often than not, people want to be helpful, fundamentally want to be kind to one another, but it's a practice. You have to practice being kind to other people if you expect people to be kind to you. I sometimes say it, but the glass work continues to be a creative outlet. It allows me to sort of shift my focus. And I hope some of that translates to our viewers, and if you all can get into a moment of just be chill. It doesn't have to be all whiz-bang hyped up. So try and melt in both ends. The wide end and the tip, and get the clear glass to sort of push back on both sides. So keep that very end exposed. And on this back side, so that kind of defines the end points. And then it's just filling in the gap. So I guess I try and take it somewhat seriously that this process of molten material, it's going to solidify and hopefully endure the test of time. And this piece of glass might be around for hundreds of years, whatever. I don't know how long people are going to be interested in keeping it around, but it certainly is possible. This is still a cool marble 200 years from now. So you're kind of freezing a moment in time as the glass solidifies. And because the primary elements of glass are the most abundant elements on planet Earth's surface, we're kind of joining in a process of geologic time scale, bringing these elements together and putting them in a form that can withstand quite a lot. Alright, that might be enough. Yeah, like so. Well, things seem to be going pretty well. I have to say, I blame it on a Windows update. Started off and the computer was just all funky. But I'm so glad that I found a file of the setup not too long ago. I was able to plug that in. The data for the application, and got something back in gear, so I'm sure hoping it says it's recording. Sure hope so. But I was hoping to get going a little bit earlier today. I'm glad I came out when I did a little bit earlier. Because it's kind of warming up. This weather right now is, well, it's supposed to get up over 70 degrees anyway, which seems kind of warm. Okay, now we've got our clear pretty well melted in. An approximate shape of roundness. Alright, our background color, backside. Start with Silver Strike 5. Okay, and the next step is going to be some deep blue. I used this last week. It turned out really nice. Trying to avoid touching that elm arbor. It's pretty toasty. I bumped into it there just for a sec. Alright, and then some deep green. I think this is Glasstronics. Green can be kind of a finicky color in borosilicate glass, and this stuff seems to be more tolerant than some that stay on the surface and work the bunch. But I don't think it really likes being worked for a long time, so this is definitely pushing this particular color glass beyond its happiest state. So try and be nice to it. Do some fairly slow rotations while I can. This upper edge, the white edge, always seems to be the slowest to get melted together. Okay, hopefully that's enough heat in there. We gotta lose some heat, get it to stop flopping around. Okay. Our tungsten pick in a pin vise. It's drooping all over the place, but it's getting hot, hot, hot. Okay, now things are kind of out of shape, so we're gonna try and bring some kind of symmetry back to this operation. Kind of lost sight of where the end should go. Got one big bubble here. Get rid of that. Okay, hopefully that's close enough to the truth. And heal up a couple issues here, including another little bubble here. Oh yeah, this is a big tear. Kind of blame it on the green glass. It tends to be a little stiffer. Takes a lot of heat to keep it fluid. Still trying to kind of find where the outside doesn't have to match the inside, but it kind of makes more sense when the pattern on the outside has got the same point, the same vertex point as the inside. And sometimes when it gets hot enough, you can kind of see through the glass and see where that matches up, but I'm not really seeing much of that right now. So, I'm just going to roll with what we've got. Give it a little roll in the marble mold. That's mostly around the whitest part. Leave the end alone. Okay, making progress. Yeah, that pattern point is not not in alignment. So this will have to be, the puntee needs to be relatively in alignment. Could be a little bit off. That's okay. Got a little character to it. So it's easier if your punty is spinning on axis, but if it's not, it's not. You just kind of live with it for a minute. But then we can throw some heat over on this side until that punty softens up, and it's still going to be eccentric, so it doesn't help that much. Well, we didn't want it to be too easy. Kind of have a few challenges to your marble projects. It's a little more challenging when the soft end has to be the controlling end. Yeah, I prefer it to be the other way and have the punty on the right-hand side controlling the orientation. But we're about there with the buildup of clear glass for the lens. So come out here to our roller. And come back and we throw the heat kind of directed into the marble side. If you pull it, just pull it a short distance. You get the heat onto a thin section. So instead of pulling it way out and making a big long stringy thing, just go just short distance and you can just heat up a thin piece and melt it off. I'm just trimming this edge. And to take out some of the pattern or color that's spilled over and sticking out. Just trying to get a clean transition between the color and the clear. You don't want to overheat that little tail if you're going to leave the tail, sort of tuck that in and keep the heat off so you don't just boil up the glass. And just skim off the surface. I do this. It's not really critical, but to get to the best optical glass, there's always a little layer on the surface that's kind of different one way or another. Adjust my angles so I can get the next row. Be mindful of your angles where the glass and flame interact. A little multitasking here. So now we just got to shape it up from this wonky shape to a round marble. So this step takes a little while. It doesn't help that my Vortex and my punty are so far off center. Using some angles. I'll kind of roll this in the L marver to get that edge even. Oops, I have this rubber mold ready to roll here. So a couple of manipulations and it gets that front lens much closer to where it needs to be. It's the colored side that's always harder to convince. All right, well, let's go for a punty change. All right, we got one bubble trouble. Just kind of sit on that for a minute with the heat to try and get that to collapse. keep doing maneuvers that make my punty wonky, and this punty attachment wasn't too good either because it was confusing. I think I got other. Sometimes we have to spend a little time chasing bubbles. Little by little. Sometimes it's a little awkward. Some of the positioning of punties or designs or whatever make things a little more awkward, but eventually we get to where we get the thing rounder and it's a lot easier to control. I can't believe I got this punty on there crooked too. It just was hard to visualize when you don't have a straight rotation. But it's another example of don't panic. Well, you're using a little bit of pressure and kind of push this together. Okay, well, little by little. It's definitely not the prettiest as far as the technique I'm showing here, making it round. This is kind of a mess, but it's going to get there. Kind of letting this hang down and try and reorient the center a little bit. Unfortunately, it only moves just a little bit at a time. Yeah, this is one of those because the ribbon, or the twisted cane that I made on the inside has red in it. The red won't show up until after it goes through the kiln cycle. When it's hot, it just looks dark. Okay, well, I think we're about close enough to do a punty swap. Get this thing finished up. So we'll just do some slow rotations in the heat and do kind of a flame polish. So when we do this step, we're trying to get it a good hard heat, and then we're not going to go into tooling. We're just going to let it cool off while we keep rotating. Keep rotating. Always keep rotating. If you stop rotating, things are going to slide. Okay, well, most of this is in shape. Very cool. Alright, so the center of action. That looks a little bit better under control. Okay, and then this guy, we got to make sure we dig out any of the plenty that sunk into the surface. Okay, we're going to marble mold from the back side. Come up on it gently. All right, I think our shape is pretty good. Now again, we just need to do some heat cycles, make sure we're nice and smooth. Just about there. Do another cycle here. that kind of backs up the getting it all smooth routine. So when you kick on the other flame, it's best to make sure it's running clean before you throw the glass into it. All right, I think I can call it. Well, this one was a little challenging. And a little time consuming. But I got all of the elements that I had written down, got everything on there. I'm excited to see how this turns out. And make sure it cool down until it's pretty solid. I don't want to mess with it. I like it hovering over the marble mold before I go screwing around with it. Okay, some white tweezers. And one last little torch. Clean up that little punky bark. And this you have to really rely on watching some reflections. We should be good to go. Wow, well, thank you so much for hanging out watching these marble videos. Another successful day out at the torch. Nice ziggity-zaggity pattern in there. Alrighty guys, into the kiln we go. We got her done. So thank you all for hanging out. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to those around you. And we will see you on another adventure another day. Check it out.